This, my friends, is a very fitting song to intro this show today because the NBA season is officially over. There you go. I let James Hetfield say the rest. Sad but true. The NBA season is over. The Oklahoma City Thunder taking down the Indiana Pacers to win their first NBA championship in franchise history. That's right. I said it. I'm not going to be the one who has to be correct and tell you that Oklahoma City just won the very first NBA championship since relocating to Oklahoma City, or for the first time ever, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City. The words they used, right, to kind of get around. No, that I am not giving them any credit for what happened way back when Seattle won an NBA title. So yeah, this is not the second championship in franchise history and the first in Oklahoma City. Nah, it's the first. It's the first. That's what that is. Bring back the Sonics. Thank you very much. And that's the end of that rant. But you know what? This series, I thought it was phenomenal. I thought this NBA playoffs, I thought they were phenomenal. And I love what Oklahoma City was able to do. They were the best team in the regular season. They were a favorite all playoffs long. And then when the dust settled and it was all done, they reigned supreme. NBA champions, and deservedly so. And you know what? Get used to them. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. That is a good ball club right there. And they've already become the villain, man. Watching social media and people kind of just hate on them during this run. Tired of SGAs flopping, tired of the foul baiting from everybody. Oh yeah, they've become the enemy of the NBA fan, and that means they're good. Every single team who's good eventually becomes the enemy, right? The Pacers were America's team. Everyone wanted the Pacers to win. It just wasn't meant to be. And you know what? What a historic run they had to go through the playoffs like they did. And everyone wants to point out like all the injuries, even the Pacers had to deal with different teams just under strength. People want to point out that Oklahoma City, like, oh yeah, Steph Curry was injured in the playoffs, and John Morant was hurt, and then Aaron Gordon wasn't 100% when they played, and then of course the unfortunate Tyrese Halliburton news. That's just what it is, man. That's the playoffs. You're always going to end up getting the team that wasn't at full strength, or something happened that you could look at and like, what if? But that's just that. What if? And that's not the reality. The reality is Oklahoma City played the cards they were dealt. They played them perfectly, and they came out in the end fully loaded, all the chips, they won. So kudos to them. Now, very, very unfortunate, though, as we mentioned just a second ago, Tyrese Halliburton going down with that Achilles injury, right? Another Achilles falls to the NBA playoffs. Damian Lillard, Achilles, obviously Jason Tatum, an Achilles injury. And then, boom, you get Tyrese Halliburton, which just sucks. It absolutely sucks. No two ways about it, right? Very, very unfortunate, especially when he starts that game off absolutely hot. It looks like they're going to put something together and they're going to make a run, and they just can't get it done. All of a sudden, Tyrese Halliburton slumps to the floor. I think NBA fan let out a collective gasp like, oh no, because you knew exactly what it was. He played just 7 minutes in that game, 9 points. He was oh, just oh, just brutal. And I thought the rest of the Pacers showed up big. They did what they needed to do. TJ McCollum was great. Ben Mathurin was great. I thought Andrew Nebhard was great defensively all series long. Pascal Siakam was trying to do everything he could. Miles Turner, bad offensively. I thought he was decent defensively through the series. Did have a very, very bad finals on the offensive side of the ball. But all things considered, man, I thought the Pacers did a hell of a job. And we will be left with that what if. What if Halliburton didn't get hurt? But unfortunately, that's not the reality of the situation, right? The reality of the situation is he did get hurt. He did get hurt, and Oklahoma City won that game. Now, Alex Caruso can say that he's a legit champion, not just a Mickey Mouse champion, right? He can say that. He can say that. And now Oklahoma City, man, they got that experience. That was what people were knocking them about a little bit, as Indiana's trying to get this run going, and they're trying to force Game 7, which they eventually did. And like, oh, does Oklahoma City have that championship experience? They don't. They only have one player to Alex Caruso. Well, guess what? Now they all got rings. Now they all got rings. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a MVP in Western Conference Finals MVP and an NBA Finals MVP. Dirty work. Absolute dirty work. And so that was the good. The bad is now we sit here and wait because there's not more basketball action, at least when it comes to the regular season right now, till October, November. But there's still plenty to talk about. Why? Because the NBA is doing a good job of becoming the NFL and trying to stretch this thing out as far as they can throughout the entire year, because no quicker did the NBA Finals end than did we get the fact that the NBA draft is in just 2 days. 2 days. It is Wednesday night. NBA draft. Blazers have the 11th overall pick. Blazers will be holding a fan block party down at the Rose Quarter. DJ OG1. Plenty of sponsors and booths. iHeart will be there. You can enter for a chance to win prizes. I'll be there at Dr. Jack's from 3 to 4:30 with Sean Hyken hosting the Rip City Drive, having some fun, getting you prepped for the draft and the Blazers. 2 days. 2 days, and we'll find out who they will get with that 11th pick. And we'll dive into that throughout this show. But I want to go back to those NBA Finals for a second. Because, yes, Oklahoma City won. But, yes, Tyrese Halliburton left injured, man. And I think it's time that we finally put a little emphasis on a strained calf, right? Because you can go through the Achilles injuries. And one thing a lot of these guys have in common who are popping off with Achilles injuries, no pun intended, is just the fact that calf injuries are lingering. It's either a calf strain they're dealing with or a former calf injury. And I know that people will say, like, well, there's no evidence and this and that. No, just pay attention. Pay attention. It is quite simple. The Achilles tendon is responsible for connecting that calf muscle to the heel. And if you have that strained calf, that is just going to put tension and extra stress throughout the rest of the system. And that does lead to some of these Achilles injuries. It is not the end all be all. It doesn't mean if you have a calf strain that you are 100% going to tear that Achilles, but also understand that in the game of basketball, how much force is generated through the hips, down through the quads and the hamstrings, through the knees, through the calves, and eventually out through the feet, right? It's like the conservation of energy, right? Energy has to be transferred somewhere. And if that calf is not able to take on all that stress, it's going to get sent out somewhere else. And sometimes it is that Achilles tendon. And then you get what happened with Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, Damian Lillard, right? Dealing with calf injuries, laboring over and over. Then he ends up having that injury. Rodney Hood, calf strain. And then what happened? Got the Achilles injury, right? Kevin Durant, same thing. So you can just go down the list. I think there's enough evidence there that I think we just maybe need to start treating that calf strain just a little bit more seriously, because it's not the injury itself, it's what it can lead to. Because the Achilles injury, obviously, the far worse one. Now, I do think there's a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. What's going on? Because again, you did have these injuries, felt like rapid succession, right? Dame and then Tatum. And then Halliburton all right here in the playoffs. Oh, we gotta lessen the NBA season, and we gotta do this, we gotta do that. I don't think so. It's not as if the NBA has never had Achilles injuries. Friend of the show, Timmy Hammock there in the chat was texting me. Some people think it's the shoes. It's not the shoes. Oh, everyone's wearing these low top shoes, man, and that's what's leading to it. Okay, well, a high top might help you, prevent a more severe ankle injury, but I don't think it's going to hurt or help the Achilles there. Dominique Wilkins famously ruptured his, right? He was wearing high tops. Coach Billups, he did it when he was at the Clippers. He was also wearing high tops, right? Don't think it's the shoe. I don't think it's the shoe. I do think there is something to be said about how you approach strength training, because I do think part of the reason you're seeing some of these injuries at such a higher clip than you used to, Achilles injuries, ACL injuries. Look at the athletes, man. Every single one of them, bigger, faster, stronger than we have ever seen. The human body has limits at some point, right? And then you need to understand how that body is intertwined. Again, how can a calf strain lead to an Achilles injury, right? More often than not, Like if you have a bad back without history of a actual back injury, whether it be, something where you hurt your back, you just wake up one morning and your muscles are all tight and you can barely stand up. More often than not, it's because your glutes are tight, your quads are tight, your hamstrings are super tight, and those muscles are pulling on the rest of the muscles, creating the rubber band effect throughout. And then so the yoga, the stretching, the things that we don't put as much emphasis on. We put a lot of emphasis on the curls and the squats and the deadlifts. Trust me, I love all those things. But you got to put some emphasis on those other things as well. I know, downward dog might not look beautiful, but there's a purpose for it. There's an absolute purpose for it. Again, I'm not a paid athletic trainer there in the NBA, but I do come by the fact that, hey, before I got in this business, before I got into sports journalism, I was a personal trainer for a long time. Might not look at me now and tell, but I did fitness shows once upon a time. Didn't do very good at them, but I did do them. And between that and personal training, you get a good idea of how the body works. Make sure we're stretching, folks. Make sure you're stretching. That's all I'm saying. Because Tyrese Halliburton tears his Achilles in the Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Us, the average Joes, might tear our Achilles reaching too hard to grab a gallon of milk at Fred Meyer, right? We're past our prime. So you always got to be ready. That's why I said stretch. Do the DDP yoga. Not sponsored, but we should be, right? Was it arms up, chest out? Arms out into a V. Come on now. You guys need to get on that. But that's my take on the Achilles injury. And at the end of the day, I just hope Tyrese Halliburton gets better, and I hope he returns to form because, boy, howdy, was that run of his this year phenomenal. Phenomenal. So fun to watch. So get well soon, Hallie, from everyone here, every basketball fan in Rip City. Speaking of Rip City, NBA draft 2 days away. Who will the Blazers take? What will they do? Is Jeremy Grant getting traded? Is Anthony Simons getting traded? Is Shaden Sharp getting traded? Is the whole roster getting traded? Are they going to bring in 50 picks and use them all? We'll talk about it when we return here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you. If you want to get in on the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also hit me up on social media. Chris J. Burkhart's the name. And of course, youtube.com. Type in Rip City Radio 620, where you can join the degenerates in there right now. Rosengrat, Ben Y. Me, and Timmy Hammock, a bunch of fools who convinced me to join a football dynasty with them. A football dynasty of which I am the reigning, defending NCAA champion with the Houston Cougars. All right? Put some respect on my name. I like that Ben kid. He's going to get to sit at the championship table one day. Timmy owns it. He has more than all of us. Rosengrat, he has some too. Those guys are legit. You don't see App State's head coach in there, though. He doesn't deserve it. He always gets to sit at the kids' table, and he gets leftovers. He'll never win. Enough college football video game talk, though. We'll do plenty of that in a couple weeks, right? Because college football 26 is coming out. But before all that, we got drafts to talk about. And guess what? The NBA Summer League's coming out. It's just there is NBA stuff to go on. So even though the season is over, next season's right here. We're ready to go. We're ready to have some fun. So now the Blazers get to turn all their attention. Now, they already did, right? They've been out of the playoffs for a little bit. But now the Blazers get to turn their attention fully to the draft with every other team and see how things go. Right now, there is a lot of interesting things in this NBA draft, right? Blazers came into that. They had the 10th best odds. Dallas miraculously jumped up, right? They miraculously jumped up to number 1, which forced the Blazers to fall. That's not great. That's not great at all. So the Blazers go into this draft with the 11th overall pick. And of course, I think things have changed a little bit because I think there's players that Portland may or may not have been interested in at that 11th spot should they fall that may or may not be available, thanks to some things that are already starting to go down around the league. What am I alluding to? Obviously talking about the Kevin Durant mega deal, right? If you guys have been living under the rock, you haven't heard it. Kevin Durant is now a member of the Houston Rockets, right? Phoenix shipped him off. In return, the Suns got Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and the number 10 overall pick. So now they get to sit there and select right in front of your Portland Trailblazers. And again, this is a team that needs bigs. And so maybe they sit and draft a guy that Portland could be looking at. Maybe they're going to mix it up. There's still this trades that could happen, right? So there's just so much to pay attention to and look at. Like last week when I had Tori on, we were talking about potential draft picks. And like a sleeper, a guy I talked about was Derek Queen, a very athletic big. Comes in, he's a power forward center type player, can play both, very athletic, that I liked. I think that's a great depth play, especially if you're looking to possibly offload DeAndre Ayton at some point. You don't know what the history is going to lead to with Robert Williams, who's continuing to deal with injuries, right? Getting that depth at center, a young guy, makes sense, but this is also a Phoenix Suns team that needs that depth as well, right? They need not even the depth. They just need a guy to come and be their starter. Maybe it's him as they look to a slight rebuild here, right? A team that is super, super guard heavy at the moment. They're not going to go in there and draft a guard. At least I wouldn't think they would. I would think that they would go in and draft a big. And so maybe that changes how Portland kind of evaluates where they're looking at what they're going after, right? So it's going to be interesting. Maybe there's other trades too. You're starting to see a lot of smoke. We've seen RJ Barrett linked to the Blazers for weeks now. I don't think that one's going to happen, right? That one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I think RJ Barrett is a very, very good player, like a very good player. I don't think he makes a ton of sense when, he's basically going to come in, make a ton of money, just like Jeremy Grant does, and doesn't really fill your needs, right? You want to get Tumani Kamara and Denny Avdia on the floor. You want to get them starting. Well, guess what? That's your starting 3 and your starting 4. Last year, RJ Barrett played, I think it was like 84% of his minutes at the 3 and the 4. That's that. So I don't think that's going to be anything, right? But there's just so much intrigue, right? So much intrigue as to what the Blazers could do. Now you start to look at the different mock drafts and what have you. And again, does it paint the picture exactly how it will lay out? No, but it might give you an idea of where things are going. A lot of mock drafts have some dude named Cooper Flag going 1 overall. I tend to agree with them. I think the interesting thing in this draft right now, and this might get people to trade. This might be where maybe Portland decides, whoa, we need to figure something out. Maybe it's the Suns, maybe it's someone else. But a lot of these mock drafts having a guy like Ace Bailey slide, who hasn't taken his workouts, right? Who has denied workouts with all these teams and maybe hurt himself in the draft process in doing so, right? So if he continues to slide, that's going to be really interesting to see how that one plays out, okay? Now I'm looking right here. Let's go through a couple of them. We're looking at CBS Sports, their latest mock draft. You look, it has Colin Murray Boyles going to Phoenix at 10, and then Carter Bryant, who's a name that I've started to see associated with the Blazers a lot more in recent days. They have him going to Portland. Freshman, 6'7", 215 pounds, right? This is what they say on him, CBS. Houston was viewed as a likely destination for Bryant, but with Phoenix more likely to focus on a big, as I just said, he could fall to Portland, which would be welcome news for the Blazers. Bryant only averaged 6.5 points and 4.1 rebounds, but he shot 46% on unguarded catch and shoot three-pointers, defended everything from point guards to forwards, and he's just 19 years old. Toronto could give him a look at number 9, too, etc. So there we go. There's your take on Carter Bryant. I think that's a guy who, in a nutshell, fits in with this team really, really well because he tends to be a defense-first guy. The shooting numbers are there, and I think that's, again, a rotation guy that you can definitely figure in. Where are you going to play him? Can you play him at the 2? Can you play him at the 3? Can you play him at the floor? It doesn't matter because if he can guard basically 1 through 5 defensively, that's what matters, and that's that versatility that Portland is looking for heading into the draft. Now, SB Nation, looking at their mock draft, they really went out on a whim. They got Cooper Flag going number 1 as well. Ace Bailey sliding to 5 to the Utah Jazz. And they also have Carter Bryant going to the Blazers at 11. Now, Yahoo Sports, let's see what they have. You start looking at them. They have Ace Bailey sliding all the way down to 7. So I do think that's very, very interesting that continues to happen. They have Carter Bryant going to Phoenix at 10. I don't necessarily see that one happening. Like I said, this is a team now with those trades, very guard. They got Dylan Brooks. They don't need that. They need a big. They need to focus, in my opinion, forward center. And again, that's where I think a guy like Derek Queen is very, very intriguing. But they also have Portland at number 11 going for Colin Murray Boyles. Now, the breakdown on him, according to Yahoo Sports, says the Trailblazers made amazing progress this season across the board. And following the All-Star break, they had a top 5 defensive rating. Murray Boyles would serve as a double down on that identity since he operates like a defensive savant. The way he locks down every position, uses his ninja quick hands to swipe at the ball, and inhales rebounds. He's a special defensive presence, and offensively, he's a bulldozer finisher with a play-making feel. Improving his jumper would move him out of tweener territory and into all-star status. And that is something we talked about last week with Torrey when he was on about the one thing that I do not ever worry about in these prospects is their shooting. Because I think that is the easiest thing for them to fix, right? If the mechanics are there and the base is there and these are things you can work on, we can get your shooting better. But it's hard to turn a bad defender into a good defender. It's hard to turn a bad rebounder into a good rebounder, right? It's hard to turn a bad passer into a good passer. A lot easier to turn a bad shooter into a good shooter. And why do I say that? Because it's the one thing you can go into a gym. You can go to 24-hour fitness. You can go to your local high school. You can just go down to the local park that has a basketball hoop ready to go. And you don't need anybody else. You don't need 9 other players. You don't need to go 5-on-5. You don't need your best friend to show up. You just need yourself and a basketball, and you can work on shooting, right? Now, by yourself, I can't sit here by myself at a park and square up and go, all right, I'm going to work on defense. What do? You don't. Now, you can run speed and agility drills, but that's speed and agility drills. Doesn't make you a better defender. Can't do that by yourself. Rebounding? Well, if you're out there trying to improve your shot, you're probably not becoming a better rebounder because you're hoping that all those shots you're taking are falling, right? But even so, there's so much that goes into rebounding because it's not only it's watching the ball off the rim, it's boxing players out, it's being in the right space. Hard to do by yourself. Same thing with passing. You could maybe set up some cones. You could do like all-star break. Okay, look at that hula hoop. Ooh, yep, there we go. Pass the ball right through. But again, you're not replicating the movement, the speed, all that. Shooting, you can do that by yourself. We've seen that come through. We saw Nasir Little go from a bad shooter to a very good shooter by the time he left Portland. Myers Leonard wasn't a floor stretching big. By the time he left Portland, he had a pretty good shot, right? Now there's other skills that those guys lacked that was the reason that they didn't stay in the league very much longer, hoping that maybe Nasir Little gets a second chance. Myers is officially retired, focusing on his country music career. But the point is, you can take players who are bad shots, turn them into great ones, right? Look at like even Alex Caruso. That's a guy who's made his entire career on the defensive side of the ball. And all they're talking about through this series is how much work he's put into that shot. He's a reliable shooter, right? Those are the things I don't worry about because they can be fixed. And so, again, Yahoo Sports has Colin Murray Boyles there for your Trailblazers. And now you start to look at ESPN. Are they locked in? Cooper Flagg going number 1 overall. Dylan Harper going number 2 to the Spurs. VJ Edgecombe rounds out the top 3. Now they got another one, Ace Bailey, falling to number 6. So it's just very interesting to see the fall that he's been on here right now. You also got to understand that maybe that's just a narrative people are trying to spin on him, right? Is that where he goes? Maybe he's going to continue the fall. He's been really dodging these workouts, what have you. But then you look at ESPN and who they have right there linked to the Blazers at 11, Carter Bryant. So you start to look at this, you start to get a clearer picture. These mock drafts, they're not necessarily in the know. Like they're not calling Joe Cronin to figure out what he thinks, and that's how they're going to compile these. They're just kind of looking at needs and this and that. But I do like both those guys, realistically, that we just went through. Colin Murray Boyles, Carter Bryant. Because, again, two guys I think defensively, boom, you can get them in there, you can go. And then offensively, you can work on them and get them to be great eventually, but you don't even need them to as long as they get out there and defense can be their calling card. Big difference between Murray, Boyles, and Carter Bryant is the fact that, Murray, 16.8 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, right? As we mentioned earlier, Carter Bryant just 6.5, right? So that factors in as well. Maybe you get a little bit of a better offensive player. Again, as some of those mocks have pointed out, a guy who has a real playmaking feel. So if he improves his shot, can become a real stud, an absolute stud. And also 6'7", 239 pounds. So he does bring on, an extra 25 pounds on Carter Bryant. Comes in as more of a true power forward, which is, again, not a bad thing, because if you go and you end up offloading Jeremy Grant, which is something that a lot of people think is going to happen, that opens up the door for what? For your guy who you just drafted who plays that position to get minutes, likely behind Denny Avdia, right? So again, the team is lined up for him and 2 to be the starters. And I still think whoever is your backup, you need a very, very reliable backup, because there's going to be times you're probably running Denny Avdia as more of a backup point guard because of the way he likes to have the ball in his hands. So can you get other playmakers in around him? I think those things matter as well. But that's where we're getting in those mock drafts thus far, right? Now there's also been other other names that have been thrown out. Some of them started to fall. Igor Demum is another one who has been linked to the Blazers in earlier mock drafts. They now have a lot of these drafts. Like I'm looking at CBS right now, has him falling down to 17. I also think if guys like, again, the guys we just mentioned who are being linked, Colin and Carter, if they are off the board, I still think that Derek Queen, is a very, very intriguing prospect myself. But that's kind of where we're sitting going into this draft. The biggest question outside of who the Blazers will draft is what other moves are going to happen, right? We already mentioned Jeremy Grant a little bit, and there is obviously the rumor mill. Are they going to move off of him? Portland needs, again, they need to open up the door for some of these other guys that they want to get into that lineup. How does that fit into their long-term plans, and how do they get that in line? I mean, you look at the trade last summer, right? Malcolm Brogdon and a pick, and he's going to Washington. Denny Avdia's coming in. Maybe that's Jeremy Grant and an asset go out, and your next guy comes in. I don't know what that looks like. Still get some moving parts there. But again, what about Phoenix? Do they sit at number 10? Do they move? If Ace Bailey slides, do other teams start to move up? I mean, if Portland, is that a team that you want to get in on the Ace Bailey sweepstakes? Because there's a lot of people who don't question his talent whatsoever. It's just off-putting by a lot of people, the fact that he has denied these workouts. right? That tends to be more of the hiccup with him right now. Like, that's kind of strange, right? He's kind of betting on himself, right? But talent-wise, you watch the tape, the guy's a stud. 6'7.5", 202 pounds, a standing reach of 8'11", a wingspan of 7 feet and a half. True shooting percentage last year at Rutgers, 57%. As ESPN says of him, Bailey's the number 3 prospect on their big board, the only U.S. prospect who has yet to visit an NBA facility, continuing to decline workout invites from Philadelphia, Charlotte, and Utah this week, seemingly preferring the group of teams ranked outside the top 5, specifically Washington, New Orleans, and Brooklyn at number 6, 7, and 8. This type of slide could cost him a lot of money. But again, he's a good player. Despite the negative publicity this move has generated, rival agents are closely monitoring Bailey's strategy, recognizing the clear benefit of guiding clients to more favorable destinations with an eye on maximizing long-term earning potential. So again, trying to maximize where he goes, which is just funny though, because look at some of these top teams. Okay, let's just be realistic here for a minute. You are a rookie. You're coming into the NBA. Who would you rather play for? Okay, would you rather play for the Dallas Mavericks, which again is likely where Cooper Flag is going? That's the worst kept secret in the league. A team that has Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, unfortunately injured, but he is there, right? A team that has playoff hopes, 2 years now removed from going to the finals. Yeah, that's a good team. Yeah, maybe your GM's a little crazy, but they're set in the right spot, right? I want to go play there. Would you want to go play in San Antonio, where you get to play next to Victor Wembanyama, right? And De'Aaron Fox, right? And everyone else. Come on, Jeremy Sohan. Like the players on players on players, the team that's only looking up. If Victor's obviously not hurt, they're going to go places. Yeah, I'd probably want to go play there. I'll go play with the 76ers, who were just injury riddled last year, but still as a team. Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey. Yeah, I'd want to go play with that. But you're going to push yourself to go play with Charlotte, who just underperforms year after year, to Utah, who is in full-on rebuild. I don't even know what they're doing territory. Position yourself to go to Washington, who has been one of the worst teams in the NBA for some time now. Hopefully he's the guy that could turn that around, right? Or even New Orleans, a team that has a lot more questions than answers, right? Herb Jones, Murphy, Williamson, what moves are they going to make? Are they going to blow that up? Are they going to try to rebuild? What are they going to do? Right? Brooklyn, I can see making sense. I think there's a good young core there, and they can turn heads. Toronto, same thing. Few moves away from starting to turn that thing around, I think. Still got some moves to make, right? But you're like, I don't want to be in the top 3 or 4 with all those teams that I think are going to be really, really good in a short amount of time. I don't know if that's the best strategy right there. But guess what? I'm not the one at the draft, so we see how that works. You know, one man's loss could be another man's gain if he continues to slide far enough for someone else to pick him up. What do you want the Blazers to do? Sound off in the chat, youtube.com. Type in Rip City Radio. You can also grab your phone, 503-248-0620. That's where Kirk says, I love to get another pick in this draft. Wouldn't be surprised if they try to find a way to get that. I think this could be a fun draft, Kirk. Everyone automatically thinks when you say get another pick, that's finding a way to trade up or get in. But I think you get into the late 20s, maybe even into the early second round. I think there might be some value there too as well. We'll see what happens, though. All I know is the draft now, 48 hours from now, we'll be sitting just about ready to hear where the Blazers are going if we don't have a better idea already with other moves that have happened. And that's exciting. I love that the NBA offseason is just goes right in. NBA Finals done, right into the offseason. Let's go. Let's go. It gets me fired up. Speaking of fired up, there's some news that might have you a little fired up as it pertains to the WNBA franchise in this city. We'll talk about it when we get back here on Courtside Monday on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio, 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you talking about the NBA draft. It will be going down in just a few nights. Wednesday night. Oh my goodness, it's right around the corner. And if you haven't heard, there's going to be a party, a block party down at the Rose Quarter. The Blazers are going to be there. DJ OG1's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Sean Hyken's going to be there. We're going to have lots of fun. There's going to be tons of events going on. Obviously, live music. You can enter to win some prizes at the iHeart Radio booth. It's going to be out there in the Rose Quarter concourse outside Dr. Jack. So have some fun. It's going to be interesting. If you haven't seen the press release, let's look at it real quick. Free to attend. Block party does start at 4:30, but it does say Trailblazers DJ OG1 will set the tone. Attendees can test their basketball skills with Pop-A-Shot, Basketball Connect 4, and Hoop with the Rip City Remix crew. Fans ready to show off their Blazers pride can step into a photo booth and pose in their favorite Blazers jerseys. Those that strike the best pose will have the opportunity to be featured in arena or on the Trailblazers social channels this upcoming season. Feeling lucky, fans can also enter to win exclusive raffle prizes and take part in giveaways from the Trailblazer partners, including Xfinity and, of course, iHeart. Joining in on the fun, Trailblazers mascots Blaze the Trail Cat and Doug Furr will be on the loose, eager to celebrate with fans. So that and a bunch more going on. The Rip City Drive will be live from 3 to 4:30 there at Dr. Jack's. Me and Sean Hyken will be holding it down. And then as soon as we're done, your radio voice of the Trailblazers, Travis Demers, along with Francis Williams, will jump on headset and they will take you through the draft, through its conclusion, and just giving you nonstop coverage right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. So if you're down there, come say hi. It's going to be a fun one. As soon as that show's done, I'm going to hop in the car. Sean and I are going to head down to the practice facility for media coverage, be down there all night long. We'll be obviously getting Joe Cronin's press conference as soon as he talks to the media, hopefully talking with the player that they draft via Zoom when that happens. So make sure you're following Chris J. Burkhardt at Hyken, our Trailblazers insider, and Rip City Radio 620 on all your social channels for all of the coverage on draft night on Wednesday. So yeah, who do you want the Blazers to draft? You know, some people, Kirk, not a fan of Carter Bryant out of Arizona. We shall see. A lot of mock drafts linking him to Portland. And you might just end up being one person like, yep, no idea. Portland had interest in him. And there he is. I mean, remember when Zach Collins drafted, Portland never even brought him in for a workout, right? Maybe Ace Bailey continues to slide and then he's available. Like there's so much intrigue that goes into the draft, right? I mean, you look at the Scoot year, right? I mean, we were watching it just so closely at number 2 pick because there was still felt like there was a realistic chance that, you know, Charlotte was going to take him. And if he did, there's Brandon Miller ready to go, a guy who I thought would have fit in perfectly in the lineup, right? But at the same time, if you got Brandon Miller playing forward, maybe you don't get the 2 that you have right now because Tumani Kamara is phenomenal. Probably one of the Blazers fan favorites, right? So you just never know. Donovan Clingan slides to the Blazers. No one really thought he was going to be available, but he was. And guess what? Fans fell in love with him last year. So something tells me that there at number 11 is just another player who, in a couple of years, Blazer fans are going to be in love with. Rachel says, I might take a trip down there on Wednesday. Well, if you do, say hi. Everyone else, come on down. Friend of the show, Rip City Keith, might come on down as well, even though my friend Keith, a little fired up. No pun intended, by the way, by some news that was broken by our Sean Hyken, Trailblazers insider. Make sure you're following him at the Rose Garden Report, that the WNBA has filed trademark claims for the Portland Fire name. Then the Portland WNBA social media channels tease that there will be an announcement on July 15th, probably likely officially announcing that team name. And as those of you know, the Portland Fire, that was the name of the first WNBA franchise that played here in Portland. Jackie Stiles famously led that thing. People loved it back then. Hopefully hopefully their new uniforms are just a little bit nicer than they were back then, because You look at the old ones, and boy, howdy, did those scream early 2000s. Those were by far just the most early 2000s uniforms you can imagine. But I like it. I like the nostalgia pop. I like the fact that it ties back to the history that was already here. You could have probably easily gone with the Portland Roses, right? Especially since you're owned by the same ownership groups and all this, and you're building this WNBA and soccer training facility for the Thorns, and you got thorns and roses and marketing bliss, right? It all makes sense. But I'm not upset that they went with Portland Fire, and it ties back to the old WNBA name. I like that. Now, it did cause an uproar for some people, right, who did not like the Fire name, who say you should not name the team after the natural disaster that has ravaged this state over the last few years, as if there wasn't wildfires back in the year 2000. Those are a new thing, right? It also has nothing to do. It's not like they said, oh, we're going to name them after the fires. No, it's just the word fire, right? I mean, it goes back to like Portland. Like, it makes me think NBA Jam, right? He's heating up. He's on fire, right? That makes sense. Oddly enough, there is precedent for this, right? Miami Hurricanes, Carolina Hurricanes, San Jose Earthquake, Colorado Avalanche, right? Iowa State Cyclones, right? The Chicago Fire of the MLS, right? The team that was literally named after the Great Chicago Fire, the fire that burned Chicago to the ground. And I believe that it was actually announced that that was their team name on like the 125th anniversary of that fire, like on the day. Wild, right? The Calgary Flames originally started as, I believe, was the Atlanta Flames, also named after a fire that burned Atlanta, right? So I get it. I get it. But at the same time, like I don't feel that. I think it's cool that they're going back to a name that was already here. I personally have fond memories of the Portland Fire. The word fire does not make me think of the negative with it, right? But just make it your own, right? Take it back, own it. Make Portland Fire awesome, man. Make it absolutely awesome. Could there be other names? Sure. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I probably would have been happy with any name they gave them because, quite frankly, I'm just excited that the WNBA is coming back. I'm excited for that, mainly because as a father of three, I've seen how happy they get when we went to a Thorns game, and I'll never forget my daughter looking at me going, "What? The girls get to play in this stadium too?" Damn right they do. They own this dang thing, and hopefully the Portland Fire, the WNBA team, can own the court too. All right, we got to get out of here though. Bye-bye. Put a bow on it. I'm coming home, T-baby. That's my little one. She gets excited when she sees me on the YouTubes, right? But before I leave, got to say goodbye the only way I know how. Rip City, I love you.